What is up, everyone, and welcome to Nothing But Professional. I am your host, Jacob Terrell, and joining alongside me soon will be another one of my good friend, or a good friend of mine, Sean Clark, who was on the show Wednesday. Before we jump into the show, I want to remind you all that I am here live every single Wednesday and Friday at 12:30 Arizona time, and I also wanted to remind you all to. Okay, I got you. There you go. You couldn't hear me for a sec, guys. But also I wanted to remind you all to make sure to follow that subscribe and hit that notification bell and to follow my social media, which is right below. This is going to keep you guys in contact with me and see every single update I'm doing with Nothing But Professional. We don't have a video coming out tomorrow, but we will next week. I just have a lot of workload right now. I'm finishing my junior year in college, so I have a little bit of projects. So look forward to the video next week coming out. With all that being said, let's reintroduce Sean Clark. Sean, how you doing today, brother?
Doing great. It was a great NFL draft
I know.
last night. Some very interesting twists and turns as we'll talk about. But the talent was so stacked, and for the most part, I liked how it played out. Some teams did really well, some teams, not so much.
As you can tell, all of you out there, I am wearing my Packers jersey because a lot of you know I am a ginormous Packers fan, and I am sharing with you, and I am wearing this jersey to exemplify the mood I'm in right now, which is not great. And if you are a Packers fan, you would probably not be in a great mood either. All right, Sean, I'm first before we get into my aspect of this decision. What is your reaction to the Packers picking up Jordan Love out of Utah State?
The one word that comes to mind is flabbergasted, to say the least. The Green Bay Packers last season were 13-3. But let's be real, they did not look like a typical 13-3 team. They won a lot of games very ugly. They were very fortunate to have the weak schedule that they had. They played the Chiefs without Mahomes, and in the playoffs they beat a Seahawks team which was out their top 3 running backs, and half their secondary was out as well. So the Packers had a very easy road to the conference championship game, but the 3 times they went to California, they were stomped. Once by the Chargers, and they were blown out twice by the 49ers. The biggest reason why this Packers team did never really look like a true championship contender was they did not have another weapon besides Davante Adams for Aaron Rodgers to throw to. So the Packers offense never really put on a complete game besides week 6 over the Raiders, but the Raiders secondary is abysmal, so that's understandable. The Packers needed a wide receiver as much as any team needed a position in the entire NFL. The only other position is the Buccaneers needing a secondary. By the way, they didn't take that either. But the Packers needed a wide receiver. Denzel Mims. I talked about on this show, literally this time 2 days ago, how Denzel Mims would be a perfect fit for the Packers. They didn't take him. Instead, you're telling me you took a quarterback when you literally have a franchise quarterback who is still performing well? Aaron Rodgers threw 2 picks last season. I get he wasn't the best last year, but I mainly think the main reason for that is the weapons that he had was lackluster, to say the least. All you had to do was pick a weapon, something Green Bay hasn't done for 15 years. When Aaron Rodgers has been the quarterback, they have never picked a skill player in the first round, ever. Really? Really?
So we'll jump into the Packers fans analysis of this situation. I personally don't have a lot of words to describe what is going on and what the decision and the reasoning was behind all of this. When you have a guy like Aaron Rodgers who has 4 more years in his contract, had arguably one of the worst seasons he had, but due to the fact that you didn't have the offensive weapons, you ran the ball a lot more, which was good because you couldn't throw it as much. And you also have a guy as talented as Rodgers who has done so much for your program for so many years and has only wanted he's I agree he's asked for a lot sometimes and he's kind of much and he's got a little bit of an attitude problem, but when you have a franchise with a Hall of Fame caliber quarterback who is taken beatings, has carried you through the worst of times, and has shown that the Packers are still able to compete even though they have a one terrible defense, not a lot of weapons on offense. It's really hard for you to really critique Aaron Rodgers anymore at this point. For the fact is you have not picked a receiver for him in the first round in the last 15 years. If you were a quarterback and you have a guy, and if you're in Aaron Rodgers' situation, would you not just be completely upset with the situation? What do you say, Sean?
Absolutely. If I'm Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't go as far to demand a trade, but at the same time, though, what motivation do I really have for playing for the Packers right now? I just carried this team, yes, with the weak schedule, to the NFC Championship game with one good wide receiver and a above average running back, but not an elite running back. I'll go with above average. I think that is a very fair assessment of Aaron.
I would agree.
So the fact that Aaron Rodgers was able to do this, okay, the one team you can't beat in the NFC right now is San Francisco. You can't beat them right now. It's fact. They got smoked twice. Now, how did the Chiefs beat San Francisco? They were loaded at wide receiver and they torched the secondary. Now, imagine the Packers had maybe, let's say, even one of those Chiefs receivers on top of Devontae Adams. It would have been a closer game then? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Raheem Mostert still had over 200 yards and 4 touchdowns, but at least Rodgers would have been able to make it more of a game instead of being at 27-0 at halftime. Okay, 27-0. If I'm Rodgers, I'm wondering, guys, what more do you want me to do? Are you content with just losing to San Francisco? I'm pissed.
I mean, I can't even. If you're a Packers fan right now, there's no other word to put. You're pissed. You are very mad. And in a situation where, what did the 49ers do? They went out, got Jimmy G more weapons. They had an amazing defensive line, and they also just drafted. They have one of the best defensive lines, and they just drafted one of the best defensive linemen in the entire in college. They just drafted another one. They are making that defensive line better. They are going to give Rodgers more problems. A line that was already giving him and beating him up and making him try to get the ball out as much as possible just got better. And what did the Packers do in return? They got a replacement. If you're Rodgers, the only thing you got from this draft pick was, we're trying to weave you out. For what reason? And a lot of people are trying to compare this to the Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers situation. But this is not the same situation. Aaron Rodgers was arguably supposed to be the number 1 draft pick but he dropped down. Aaron Rodgers fell to the Packers. And they were lucky he was still on the board. Jordan Love was not even supposed to be drafted within the first round, and they traded up for him against teams who weren't going to draft a quarterback. I know I am angry right now, but if you're a Packer fan, you would understand. There's not a lot to talk about other than you can just be completely disappointed in the decision, especially when every single NFL analysis, every Packer fan, every single person, Rodgers, every person has said, let's draft a receiver. Let's get him more weapons. He's got 4 more years. Let's keep the guy who's carried our franchise happy. You're just pissing him off more. And honestly, if you're Rodgers, what do you expect from now on? If they don't decide in the next couple rounds tonight to finally pick up at least Thaddeus Moss, if somehow he drops that low, if they trade up again, get C.D. Higgins, then you know what? I will sit back and I will say, okay, you guys did the right thing. Or you guys at least made a move to help your franchise now. But the Packers were also the only team in the entire first round whose team did not get better with the draft pick they decided. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's not a great situation for the Packers. And I want to quickly touch on the 49ers because you talked about them. To me, the team that won the first round, if I had to pick one team that won the first round, it was the San Francisco 49ers. Last season, they were in the Super Bowl. They destroyed both the Vikings and the Packers to get to Super Bowl. They were the number 1 seed. They were the best team in the NFC last season. There is no doubt about that. They won at New Orleans. They proved they were the best team in the NFC. Now, San Francisco had 2 problems this offseason. Number 1, they couldn't keep their entire defensive line. So what did they do? They traded DeForest Buckner for a first round pick, a high one at that, a first round pick in the top half. So they draft Kinlaw. But here's the thing, they get a free fourth round pick by doing that because they scam the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out of a fourth round pick. The 49ers weren't going to take Tristan Wirfs. They weren't going to do that. They're fine at tackles. They scammed the Buccaneers out of a fourth round pick. Okay, what did they do after that? They used that fourth round pick plus a couple other picks. Oh yeah, let's get their favorite receiver in the draft, which places Emmanuel Sanders. So they replaced the two best players they lost this offseason with two players that could potentially be better than both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And they scammed the team out of a fourth round pick. Is there a better manager in the NFL than John Lynch right now? I don't think so. The way he has built this 49ers roster, and keep in mind, this time last year, they had the second pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And yet now they're the best team in the NFC. They're the big winners last night. If I'm a 49ers fan, I am on cloud 9 right now.
I mean, I would say the only player other than, I would say, of course, the top three, the Bengals, the Redskins, and the Lions, they all got top three players in the draft. I predicted the first three picks easily. I'm not surprised that Burrow, Chase Young, and Okudah, all three players completely improved their team. But I think the best pick outside the first three of the best player any team could have gotten, it was the Arizona Cardinals with Isaiah Simmons. A Swiss Army knife when it comes to playing on that defensive side of the ball. He plays safety, he can play corner, he can play outside linebacker, and honestly, if you wanted to, he could really play the edge and rush off the edge. Isaiah Simmons the Cardinals really did not need to improve their defense with that high of a draft pick, but Isaiah Simmons was one of those guys you couldn't pass up. It was one of those situations that wasn't the most crucial thing to improve, but he was one of those guys when he's on the board and you're looking around, how could you not pick him? And especially with the Cardinals team who still needs to improve their defense a little bit, this could not have been a better option for the Arizona Cardinals. And now they have improved their offense by getting DeAndre Hopkins. They just improved their defense. You improve that offensive line a little bit, they're going to start competing with teams such as the 49ers and the Seahawks. And I believe the Rams aren't as much in the question anymore because of some of their offseason moves. But I feel like the Cardinals are another team that really won this draft, or at least this first round.
Yes, I was stunned that Isaiah Simmons fell all the way to number 8. I thought that Isaiah Simmons was possibly going to go to the Giants because to me the Giants, their trademark is defense, and I thought that they would take Simmons with that. But I thought there's no way he's sliding past Carolina. I thought Carolina was the perfect fit for Simmons because Luke Kuechly retired and they now have a hole at middle linebacker. And I thought Isaiah Simmons would have been perfect. But no, they took Derek Brown, and I was very surprised. That was the first surprising pick of the draft. And when I saw that Simmons was still on the board with the 8 at Cardinals, I'm like, no. Is he really going to fall all the way to the Cardinals? And he did. Here's the thing. This is something I don't feel like was talked about enough heading in the draft. The Cardinals' defense was bad last season.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people talk about how bad the Cardinals' offensive line was. The defense was even worse. They were getting torched by almost every single team. I remember there was a game in early December or late November against the Rams, who were not playing well at that point, and the Rams were up 34-0 before you could even blink. I just remember, and that was at Arizona too. That was an embarrassing loss for the Cardinals. I remember thinking that day, wow, if they actually had a couple good players on defense, maybe they can actually compete against the Rams because they can't beat them right now. And Simmons was the best possible pick that they could have gotten there outside of the top 3. Simmons can do anything, and he improves that defense, to me, by at least a few ranks in total defense. He will contribute with tackles, interceptions, even sacks. So I think Simmons is an incredible pick for the Cardinals. If I'm a Cardinals fan, I am very happy right now. DeAndre Hopkins and Isaiah Simmons, amazing.
Their offseason moves, the Cardinals, unlike the Packers, are showing that they are willing to win now. They are doing what they can to win now, and that is not what a lot of teams have shown. I think another questionable pick, personally, was the Cowboys decided to pick, in my personal opinion, the best overall receiver in this year's draft, CeeDee Lamb. You have Henry Ruggs and you have Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy, I'd say, is the best route runner. Henry Ruggs is just one of those guys that is just a speedster. He ran a 4.2740. but I believe CeeDee Lamb is the best overall receiver out of all three of those guys. And the Cowboys, who desperately needed a defensive back because they lost their safety, decided to add to their weapons when they already had two 1,000-yard receivers. They added another weapon, which is great for that offense. And I know you want to risk it and you want to take it, but at the end of the day, defenses do win championships. And as much as you could say the 49ers, who had the best defense, did lose to the Chiefs in the Super Bowl, who had a better offense, but that was also with Patrick Mahomes. Dak Prescott is not Patrick Mahomes. You're going to need to improve that defensive backfield a lot because teams like the Packers, who had one good receiver, torched you in the defensive backfield. And when you decide once again to not improve that, you are going to give up lots of numbers. The one counterpart to that is now they will be able to put up a lot of numbers, but you can't rely on your team dropping 40 points every game. You have to rely on your team dropping 24 and then allowing that defense to make the stops they can. But the Cowboys decided to not move forward on their defense. What do you have to say to that, Sean?
I was very puzzled about the pick. I think the Cowboys, they're fine at wide receiver. The Cowboys had the number one offense last season and the number one passing offense. Offense was not the problem last season. The problem for the Cowboys last season is they played tissue soft defense. That was a term that I came up with when actually after the Packers beat the Cowboys last season. I came up with that tissue soft defense. That's what the Cowboys played all last season. The Cowboys played soft zone all the time, and they allowed teams to pick them apart. And I mean every single team. It was ridiculous. And coming in this draft, I thought to myself, okay, they need a safety more than anything. I had them picking Grant Delpit, but that's because I didn't think Xavier McKinney would be on the board. I thought McKinney would have been the perfect fit for the Cowboys. And to my shock, McKinney still hasn't been picked in this draft from some inexplicable reason. McKinney, in my opinion, the Bengals should take him with the first pick in the second round. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to CeeDee Lamb, he's a good receiver. I don't think he's as good as Jerry Jeudy or Henry Ruggs because Oklahoma playmakers have not been the best in the NFL. But at the same time, though, he could be good for the Cowboys. And I think that the Cowboys' offense is a lot more dynamic. But it wasn't necessary. I'd rather plug other holes than add to a strength. Because to me, Amari Cooper, Michael Gallup is already a strength. Mm-hmm. A bit questionable. I think it could work out for the Cowboys, but I would have liked them to go Xavier McKinney instead.
Agreed. And when you look at the Cowboys, you look at the reaction of Jerry Jones, he was I get it. Your offense is going to improve by a lot with this. You're now going to have a slot guy. You're going to have one of the top receivers in the draft playing your third. He's going to be your number 3 wide receiver, maybe number 2. It depends on how well Gallup plays or how much they utilize Gallup with CeeDee Lamb there. But Amari's still your number 1 without question. So and you also have a top running back, have a solid franchise quarterback now. I believe they're going to go all in on Dak. You have a pretty good offensive line. They have diminished their offensive line, but you also still have one of arguably the best offensive lines in the game. Your offense is set. At this point, if you're not drafting complete defensive players, I don't really know what you're doing. At least only get defensive backs, because once you get that, you arguably might have one of the best rosters in the NFL.
Yeah, the Cowboys do have a very good top-to-bottom roster. To me, when you look at just the roster in general, it's one of the best, and that's why Jason Garrett should have been fired a lot earlier than he was. I'm really excited to see what former Packers coach Mike McCarthy is going to do with the team. It still feels, when I saw Mike McCarthy last night picking for the Cowboys, I was thinking to myself, what alternate reality have I stepped in where Mike McCarthy is coaching the Cowboys? It still hasn't sunk in yet. It really hasn't. Because if you would have said that even 3 seasons ago when the Packers and Cowboys had that epic playoff showdown in Dallas, if you would have told me that then, I would have laughed at you. But I think Mike McCarthy is going to have some nice weapons. But I swear to God, if they play that tissue soft defense again, watch Philadelphia win another NFC East right in front of you. Have fun with that.
Yeah, exactly. And Philadelphia, I feel like they're going to make some pretty good moves for the rest of the draft. But I think let's jump over to another draft pick that I personally thought was really smart. For a young, very, I would say, immature, undisciplined team, the Cleveland Browns took a step up, got the Alabama offensive tackle, Jedrick Willis. I'm pronouncing that right. Jedrick Willis Jr., because he was personally, I thought, should have been drafted to the Giants on number 4, because I think he's the best offensive lineman in this draft, but they went with Andrew Thomas, which is another big surprise for me. But the Browns, who desperately needed someone to protect Baker and give him more opportunities, they made a good move. This was a smart move for the Browns. Sorry about that. What do you say, Sean?
So I think when it comes to that, Baker Mayfield needed help badly. Last season, Baker Mayfield led the NFL in quarterback hurries. That is not a good statistic for a young quarterback, and a quarterback who can be very trigger happy in the pocket, which is one reason why the Browns offense didn't really get going unless you were playing a team like Miami, who they threw all over. It was like 41-17. They needed protection badly. They needed that tackle to replace Joe Thomas, who retired after sustaining his first injury in his career, his first and only injury in the NFL. And I think Willis was a very smart pick. I think the Giants taking Andrew Thomas was a good pick because, to me, Thomas is the safest of all the prospects. The Giants know what it's like to take a bust in Eric Flowers, so they went with the safest option in tackle. So I think the Giants did good with that. But Willis, I think is going to be really good for the Cleveland Browns. I'm glad the Cleveland Browns made a smart pick because you need to protect Baker Mayfield. I still think he's the franchise future. I don't really blame him for last year's season. I blame the offensive line with bad coaching because they should have been like, hey, Baker, don't throw after 2 seconds, please. They should have been smart enough to tell him this. But I like what the Browns did, and I'm very interested to see what they do today as well. I think they could really continue to shore up the secondary and the offensive line a bit more.
I think another really interesting pick too. Okay, Dolphins number 5, Tua. Smart move, bad move. What would you say? I'm gonna go. I think this is a smart move. I think Tua is the best quarterback in this year's draft. I know you and I have disagreements on that, but let me explain for the fact of they are moving in the right direction. They got 3 really good players. They got 1 offensive tackle. I believe they got Tua, and then what was their 3rd pick? I'm looking at cornerback. So they're definitely improving their picks by a lot. I think Tua isn't going to be healthy. I won't see him playing maybe the first few games, but they're going to get him into that. You don't really have guys in front of him to teach him anything, but he is still going to be a solid guy as long as he stays healthy. That would be, but I'm glad they got an offensive tackle to keep him protected. And I would say that would be a good move. Dolphins improved by a lot, improved by a little, did bad in this draft. What did you say?
So back in 2018, Miami had the Miami Miracle, which as a Patriots fan still hurts a little bit. After that, the Dolphins lost their last 3 games. When the Dolphins lost their last 3 games, they fired Adam Gase. And I remember thinking to myself, okay, they're gonna start to blow up the whole team and they're gonna draft Tua. I said this December of 2018. So about 17 months ago, I said Tua is going to go to the Dolphins, and here we are. Tua is now a member of the Miami Dolphins. Now, the Dolphins, I thought they were going to trade up for Joe Burrow. That's what I predicted. And here's the thing. I was right to a degree. The Dolphins actually tried to do exactly as I said they would. The first thing I saw when I woke up yesterday was the Dolphins tried to trade up for Burrow, but the Bengals would not have it. So I was right. The Dolphins did try to do that. But since they couldn't do that, they got the next best thing. They took Tua. Now Tua should not have a single snap this season. Not one. Not a single snap. Nuh-uh.
Well, you know he's not playing preseason.
That's also for sure. I mean, we don't even know if we'll have a preseason, but even if there is, shouldn't either.
Yeah.
Tua should not see the field at all this season. I think Tua should sit because he broke his hip. That is not an injury to sneeze at. So I think they should sit him for a full season. The Dolphins will probably be, I would go 6-10. I think they'll be a bit better than last season because they've upgraded their roster everywhere. Get another mid-round pick or even a top 10 pick. Continue to build the young core. And then when Tua is ready, the Dolphins are going to be a fun team to watch. And it would not surprise me if this decade, the Dolphins and Bills is quite a rivalry. Mm-hmm. I'm down for it because it was in the Dan Marino, Jim Kelly days.
Yeah. Okay, so I got a few more questions for you I really want to discuss. We only had 1 running back taken, and it was the 32nd pick in the first round. You got Clyde Edwards. Is it Hilaire? I believe
Hilaire.
Hilaire. I would say I like him. I like the kid a lot. That's more of my thing. He's got one of those dog mentalities. He really wasn't supposed to be this superstar that he turned into. He's the running back out of LSU. He's a smaller build guy, went to the Chiefs. He's going to be joining one heck of an offense without question. And so, what would you say? Are there any other running backs that were you surprised there was only one running back? Do you think there should have been one running back, or where are you at with that?
So according to my mock draft, I actually didn't think a single running back would be taken in the first round. Because I thought, because the Chiefs only have 4 draft picks, I thought they would trade down for more picks to boost their depth. So I didn't think the Chiefs would take one because I didn't think they would pick in the first round. But when I saw that they weren't going to trade down, I was thinking to myself, okay, they could use a second running back to go with Damian Williams, who should have been Super Bowl MVP, by the way. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire, to me, is the best running back in this draft. Better than DeAndre Swift, better than Jonathan Taylor, and everyone else. To me, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, first of all, he's the freshest out of every running back. He really only started 1 season, but he was phenomenal. He's great out of the backfield. To me, his potential is a better Damian Williams. That to me is what I see from Edwards-Helaire. He's great out of the backfield. He's a solid runner. I think he fits this Chiefs offense perfectly. I think we can go ahead and officially cancel the AFC because this Chiefs offense is even more ridiculous. It's not fair. This really is not fair.
And last one, the Minnesota Vikings get Justin Jefferson. What do you say?
I absolutely love it. I initially had Justin Jefferson going there in the mock draft I did on my podcast before I changed a couple things later. I think Justin Jefferson is a perfect fit for the Minnesota Vikings. I absolutely love it. Jefferson can go in the slot. He can play outside. And if you look at the Vikings receiving core, you have Adam Thielen, a top 5 receiver in the NFL. Bold take, I know, but he is. And then you have Justin Jefferson, who can be the number 2 and number 3. But people forget, Minnesota also picked up Tajay Sharp from the Titans. He is a solid slot guy who can contribute and will get more playing time because the Titans had a deep receiving core last season. I like this Vikings new receiving core. And I'm just super excited to see what the Vikings will do this season because the Vikings and Packers are basically about even. Roster-wise, I think the Vikings are
Vikings have it a little bit more. I'll give the Vikings that one.
But the main reason why the Packers in some ways do have a better edge in some ways is because the Packers do have Aaron Jones who torched the Vikings twice last season. So I really can't wait to see the Vikings and Packers, both of their meetings this season, and I hope Dalvin Cook is healthy for both. So that way we can get some good matchups. I love what the Vikings did.
Yeah. And before we leave, I just want to claim one thing as a Packers fan. I am happy for Jordan Love. I am going to welcome him to our team. I'm more frustrated with the organization and what they're doing to Rodgers, but I am happy for Jordan Love. He's a good kid. He has a little bit of a problem because he got arrested 5 months ago, so that's kind of questionable on his moral decisions at the moment. But I am happy for him. I hope he is successful for us. He's gonna have a few years to learn under Rodgers, which is super good. I think in respect, before I leave, I want to say that this draft pick for the Green Bay Packers is more tailored good for Jordan Love than the Packers franchise itself. But I do want to say congratulations, welcome to the team. I am going to apologize for all the frustrating fans you are going to get, but good luck to you. I hope you do as much as we can. I am just a little bit frustrated with the franchise organization itself. But with that being said, thank you all for watching today. I really had a good exciting. This was fun. Sean, thank you so much for checking out. Coming in on the show. I wanted to remind you all to hit that subscribe button and click that notification bell. We will have 2 shows once again next week, both Wednesday and Friday at the same exact time, and a new video coming out Saturday at 12. So make sure to stay tuned and make sure to keep up with that. With all that being said, thank you guys. I hope you guys are staying safe out there. Sean, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for having me once again.
Of course. Hope you guys are excited for the rest of the draft. See you guys later.